Hi everyone, and welcome to the second part of my series on mastering Java interview questions. In this video, we are going to cover some of the more important topics maybe asked in your Java interview. If you haven't seen the first video in this series, I highly recommend you to check it out first. In this video, I'll talk about the things like how Java programs is executed, what are variables, what are data types, and many more. So, if you are ready to turbocharge your Java knowledge and stand out in those interviews, make sure you stick around till the end of the video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell of Hackify-Tech YouTube channel so you will never miss any of our valuable Java content. Alright, let's not waste any more time. Let's dive into the Java interview questions. So in this series, the first question we have is how Java program is executed. So basically, there are two phases of execution. First is the compilation phase, in which we'll be creating a Java program that is nothing but a Java source code in a text editor, or we can use any IDE, that is nothing but integrated development environments or software, in order to write a Java program. But in this series, we'll see how we can create it with the help of text editor like a notepad. So Java programs are typically saved with a .java file extensions. So once we write the Java source code, we need to compile it as well. Okay. So the compilation is the process of translating the code into human readable to Java source code into a machine readable format. Okay. So let me finish it up. So you use the Java compiler. So basically, whenever you are installing JDK, at that time it will install a compiler called Java C. So this compiler, which will convert the source code into a byte code. There is nothing but a dot class file. Okay, so let me quickly show you how we can execute this Java program in a notepad. So I'll come to this folder. This folder is being created into my desktop. I'll just right click, go to the new. I'll create a text document. I'll name this as sample dot java. So files are saved with dot java extensions. So if I just click on here, but you guys can see here the type of the file is still text document. So what I can do, I can just go to the views. I can click on the file name extensions. Now you can see the file is with dot java dot txt extension. So I'll just right click and rename it, and I'll remove the dot txt part. I'll hit enter. So the file will be forcefully renamed. Okay, now it has been renamed. I'll just right click and I'll open it with any of the notepad. Yes, this one, so integrated notepad. So I'll little bit zoom in here and I'll write. So first statement is public class sample. So make sure whenever you're giving a class name, the class name should be same as your file name. And public is access modifier class we are creating with the name sample. I'm opening a bracket, so here I'll end the class body. So inside this, there is a starting point that is nothing but public static void main, that what we call as a main method, which will accept and string arguments as in parameters. So here again open a bracket and I'll close the bracket. So inside this I'll write system dot out dot println. I'll write please subscribe to my channel. In the output, I'll just save the file. Now I'll just press Ctrl S, which will save my file. Now I'll come back to the folder here. Now you guys can see the size of the file has been increased. Now I'll just click on the URL here. I'll remove everything and I'll just type cmd, which will open a command prompt at this particular location, so where my Java file is available. So here I'll give a command called Java C, which is nothing but compiler. For this compiler, I'll be passing a file name called sample.java. So you can just type starting few letters, and if you tap, it will auto complete the sentence as well. The moment you hit enter, you guys can see here one file is being generated. This is what we call as an bytecode. This is what we call as an Java bytecode. The extension of the file is .class file. So now I want to execute this file. So what I'll do, I'll just type java sample I'll type. I'll not give .java extensions or anything because I'm executing this bytecode file. The moment I hit enter, you can see in the outputs, I'm able to see, please subscribe to my channel. Okay, so until this process, we call it an compilation process. This what we call is an execution process. So how it is being executed? Let's see that. Okay, so from current slide, just select the file. Okay, so we have given this command. So where we have passed our program.java file as well. So in the execution process, the JVM will load the Java bytecode program into memory. Okay, so basically with the help of class loader, all your bytecodes are loaded into your JVM, and JVM will create a thread for your program. Okay, so each and every program will be having a one thread, that what you call as a main thread. So JVM starts the thread by executing the first instructions of our programs from a bytecode. So your bytecode is executed, not your source code. So JVM continues the execution program and the bytecode until the program finishes or until the program is being encountered with an array. So your execution keep on continuing until and unless the program finishes or any exception or any error comes in between. Okay. So when the program finishes, the JVM will exit. If the program encounters an error, then the JVM will throw an exception. Okay, so till if it is any having any error, then we can go back to the source code and we can again modify. Again we have to compile and again we have to write it again, compile it again, and we have to execute. Okay, so this was the answer for your first question, how Java programs are executed. So in this series we have a next question, that is nothing but what are variables. So variables are nothing but a containers, for they are used for storing the data values. They are nothing but a name, storage, location of a data temporarily during the execution of a program. So they are nothing just a container which can be used for execution of a program, but they are stored temporarily. They are not stored permanently. The moment you close this application or the moment it goes out of the scope, at that time it will be destroyed. So variables are used to hold various type of data such as number, text, and objects. So in the inside of variable containers, you can store a text, you can store a number, and you can store objects as well. So the syntax to declare a variable is, we have a data type, then we'll give a variable name, and then we'll give a value. Okay, so there are different types of variables. If you want to store an integer value, then we can define it like this. Or so here you can see we are declaring a integer, but we have not initialized any value to this. At the next line, we are initializing the value. So the next thing, we are declaring the value. Sorry, we are declaring a data type as well as we are assigning the value as well. So for these two, we can define a string. So strings are always added into double quotes. Make sure that. So we have a boolean value as well. That is nothing but we can have it true or false values. Okay. So these are variables. So the next question, we have what is local variable in Java. Local variable is declared inside the body of a method or the block of the code. We call it a local variable, which means if you have a method here, if you are defining the variable inside this, that what we call is a local variable. But this is a small I, okay, not a capital I, and this is a small p. Okay, and make sure your s whenever you're giving system.out.println, make sure your s is capital. So one more point is, the local variable exists only while the method or block is being executing. So until and unless the block is in execution process, at that time it is available. So once it is completed, once the execution of this block is been completed, so that block, that variable is been destroyed from the method block. Okay, then local variables can't be defined with a static keyword, so which means you can't add a static keyword at a starting here like this. And one more thing, whatever variables you are declaring inside this method body, the scope of these variables are only available within this brackets, within this method. Yep. So the next question, we have what is instance variable in Java. So instance variable in Java is a variable that is declared inside the class but outside the body of a method. So you guys can see there is no method here, but it is declared inside a class. That's why we call it as an instance variable. So they are associated with each object of a class. So whenever you are creating an object of a class, at that time they are being associated. They can be accessible by any method within the class. Suppose if you have any method here, at that time this variable can be accessible within this. Okay, only for this class, not for other class. So here also the p is small. Okay, clear? Then the next question we have is what is static variables in Java? A variable that is declared as a static with the help of static keyword, we call it as a static variable. So you guys can see here a variable is declared with a static keyword. So static variable should be declared within a class, but with the static keyword. So it is inside a class with a static keyword. It can't be a local variable as well, which means you can't declare a static variable inside a method. You can create a single copy of a static variable. Assume I have created a name. I can have only one variable. I can't have a duplicate copy of this throughout the program. So static variables often used to store the information that is common to all the instances of a class. So basically if you have a common data like college name, like that, so college name will be same for multiple students, all the students. So that's why those kinds of informations are stored into static variables. Yep. So next we have what is final variable in Java. So basically if you want to create a constant or if you want to create a variable where the value should not be changed, the value should be constant throughout the program and it should be only readable. We can't override or we can't change the value of that variable. That those kind of variable will be declaring with a final keyword. Okay, so final variable can be declared inside a it could be a local variable, it could be instance or a class level variable. We can declare it wherever we want, either it could be inside a class, method, or a static variable as well. uh, Program here which will demonstrate example of all types of variables. So here we have declared a final variable with a float type. So final variables are always written into a capital cases. Then we have a integer data. Since we are using a final keyword, that's why we call it a final variable. So this data we call it an instance variable because they belongs to this class. Then we have a static variable here. Then we have a method. Again, we call it as a local variable. Again, we have a main method here. Any variable is declared within this. That what we call as a local variable as well. So, so the next question we have is what are data types in Java? Data type specifically is nothing but a different size of values that can be stored into a variable. So that thing is defined by your data types. So what is the size of the variable, what value you need to store into that variable, everything is decided based on the data type of that variable. So basically there are two types of data types available in Java. One is primitive data type, which includes all your data types like boolean, character, byte, short, int, long, float, double, etc, etc. So primitive data types are predefined by the languages and named as a reserved keyword. So they are already defined along with your Java programs. So these are the variables. Okay, these are of fixed size. Okay, so that's why we call them as a primitive data types. So non-primitive data types, or we call it as a reference data type. The non-primitive data types includes like classes, interface, array. They can store the value of a variable directly inside a memory. That what we call as a non-primitive data types. So one more very important point in Java is that Java is statically typed programming language, which means first we have to, in case if you are writing a program, we have to define the variable, then I have to use the variable, which means we have to define the variable and then we have to use. That is nothing but a statically typed programming language. Sorry, this question has been continued here. We can see like how data types are being segregated. So they're segregated into two types, primitive, non-primitive. So primitive, all your data types will come like boolean characters, they'll start with small letters, all these things. But non-primitive, those are nothing but an object, so that's why they start with an capital letter. Like your string, enum, interfaces, all they belongs to a non-primitive data type. The next question we have is, what is primitive data type in Java? So primitive data type in Java are the basic data types that are built into a Java language. So primitive data types are of fixed size. Like assume like we have a byte. So byte can only store a number between 128 to plus 127. So which means they are of fixed size. We can't store 130 on a byte data type variable. Primitive data types are stored in stack memory, which is faster memory region that than the heap memory. Basically, there are 8 types of primitive data types available in Java. One is byte, one more is short, which can store a range of numbers between minus 32,768 to plus 32,767. Then we have integer where it will store up to 10 digits of number, but it will start with two series here. So long can store a whole number of values between this range. Also, you have a floating point numbers in case if you want to store a decimal numbers like 19.99 and all, you can use float and double. So if you have a single character like A, B, C, D, then you can store it inside a single character, or if you have a boolean values like true or false, like true or false, that you will be storing it inside a boolean data type. Okay, so single characters are stored within single characters. Make sure that as well. So then we have what is non-primitive or a reference data type in Java. So a non-primitive data type is also known as reference data type. They are not defined by the language itself, but they are created by the programmer with the help of classes and interfaces. So basically programmer will be defining this non-primitive data types to store the values. Non-primitive data type represents an object or an instance of a class. So this is an important point again, or an interface. Yeah. These data type don't store the actual data, but instead store the reference or a address to the memory location where objects are stored. So wherever the object is been stored into the memory, this non-primitive data types will be holding the address of that memory. Non-primitive data types are stored into heap memory, which is lower memory region for the stack memory as well than the stack memory. It is slower than the stack memory. Then we have something called typecasting. So basically typecasting in Java is nothing but a process for converting one data type to another data type. There are two types of typecasting available in Java. One is white typecasting, which means the process of converting a smaller data type to a larger data types. Like if you have a data type with a bigger value, and to convert this to assume you have a smaller data type and you are converting it to a bigger data type, at that time we call it as an wide typecasting. Narrow typecasting is the process of converting a large data type. Assume if you have a large data type and you are converting it to a smaller data type, so definitely there is a chances of data loss as well. So that's why it is not explicitly done by it is not done by automatically by a compiler, but it must be explicitly done by a programmer. That note one more thing, that wide ring typecasting is safer because there is no loss of data, because we are converting it from smaller to bigger one. But if you are converting a bigger data type to a smaller data type, there is a chances of losing a data as well. So that's why it is not all the time recommended. Then in this example you can see the typecasting. So in the white typecasting we have a variable with the name integer, and we are storing it to a long data type. Like we have a small box where we are storing 30, and we are again moving it to a bigger box that is nothing but long where we are storing the 30, like this. So there is no chance of data loss. So it is acceptable. But if you come to a narrow typecasting in Java, where you have a big container where you're storing some big value, and that value you're trying to store again it into a integer, a smaller number. So here there is a possibility of data truncation or a data loss as well. So this thing should be manually done by the programmer. So the next question we have in this series is, what are wrapper classes? So in Java, wrapper classes are a set of classes that provides a way of representing a primitive data types as an objects, like uh, this primitive data type in a form of objects. So primitive data types are not objects. Okay. So also one more point, that Java is not 100% object oriented programming language just because of this primitive data types. And these wrapper classes will be very much useful when we are working with the collections part, like array list, queue, stack, etc, etc. So how we can convert the integer, how we can store integer value into a wrapper classes, we can define it with the entire name with the name double, and make sure your primitive data types start with a smaller letter, and a wrapper data types they start with a capital letter. So here all the data types I have mentioned here, you can go through this one by one. So alright guys, then let's wrap this video of this series. Stay tuned for the next episode. If you have more questions or any topic would like to cover in the future videos, please leave a comment below. We would like to support your growth. Don't forget to like this video, share with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Best of luck for your Java interviews. Keep coding, keep learning. Bye bye.